This episode, we're gonna reap what the Stephen U crew have sown in Gem Harvest. I'm Victor Frost, and this is Steven Universe Universe. Halle frickin' Luya, the hiatus is over. Let's talk about this thing. With Thanksgiving less than a week away, here in the US, the Steven Universe team have blessed us with a truly wonderful Thanksgiving special, replete with food, family, and that one uncle who doesn't like change, won't stop calling people hippies, and complains about encroaching socialism like it's the early 80s. Truly, this is the authentic Thanksgiving experience. Except, well, it's not Thanksgiving, it's a family reunion of sorts. And Greg has some explaining to do. Less than a second after Steven comments about how nice it is to have an addition to the family, he gets an uncle literally falling out of the sky. Andy DeMayo is the son of Greg's aunt and uncle that we first heard about back in Space Race. Their love of aviation seems to have been passed down to Andy, who arrives on the scene on a two-seater biplane, only to find his parents' barn to be, well, not all as he had left it. After a bit of to and fro with Peridot and Lapis, with Greg getting him to settle down a bit, if only for a moment, Andy decides that the barn and the farm is only for DeMayos. But who exactly are the DeMayos? So yeah, apparently Greg at some point legally changed his last name from DeMayo to Universe. Because reasons? I mean, I can certainly understand wanting a cool stage name, but there are ways to do that without actually changing your name. I go by Victor Frost, I can receive checks as Victor Frost, and I even have bank accounts under Victor Frost, but that's not my real name. It's not that I'm ashamed of my real name or anything, Victor Frost is just more memorable and easier for people to pronounce. So you have to wonder what made Greg want to change his last name so formally and with such a degree of finality. At any rate, Steven wins Andy over and convinces him to let the Gems and everyone pull together a nice meal to, in effect, become family and earn their right to stay in the barn. After some bumps and the usual hilarity ensues, things turn around and everyone starts having a great time. The table setting is lovely, everyone is joking around, and Peridot even makes a lovely little speech. Things are great, and Andy decides to let them have the barn, and then suddenly leaves. He takes off in his plane without so much as another word. Steven and Lapis immediately take to the skies and set after him, much to his surprise. And after finding out what happened, Steven eventually talks Andy down. So, what happened? Watching this episode, you might be tempted to think that the reason Andy takes family tradition so seriously is because he doesn't like change. In fact, it's the other way around. He doesn't like change because it's only when things and people started changing that he feels he started losing his family. Family is clearly really important to Andy. Those times where everyone would come back to the barn and see each other, catch up, share a meal, have fun, those were the good old days. But with time comes change, and over time the family started to drift apart. Not because they didn't love each other, but simply because life can put people on different flight paths. And despite his efforts to fight the change, it didn't work. His family still drifted apart, and so he was the holdout, still fighting the change until this very day, even if it left him alone. Without his family around, there's nothing on the ground for him, so he flies. But he can't stay away forever because, as the saying goes, home is where the heart is, and his heart is at the barn. It's the physical link to the times when everyone he cared about would all come together. The barn grounds him. And to see the last remaining sacred place in his fight against change, all of those precious totems to those good old days, to see it changed, it hurts. But hey, at least there's family there, and food and jokes. Maybe change isn't so bad. Maybe this can work. Except for all the effort, it's not his family. It's another family with their own history, their own jokes, their own traditions. He's the outsider. And the wedding cake with all the figures on the cake and the lone figure on its own, Slice is a fantastic visual metaphor for his feeling of exclusion. His one place of grounding is no longer his, and so he gives it up along with his fight against change. And so he leaves. What was he thinking? How Steven brings him back is important, because I don't think it would have worked any other way. Andy has the realization that rather than trying to fight against change, trying to keep bringing everyone back to the barn as a way to stay connected, he could have simply embraced it and gone out to them. Steven seizes upon this and lets Andy know that, hey, it's not too late, and that he already has a great place to start. He grounds him. Being able to have that grounding lets Andy really get the meaning of home being where the heart is. It's not that your emotional heart is in any one particular place, but rather that your home is anywhere your family, the people you care about and who care about you, your heart is. While not lore heavy like a lot of fans wanted, I think this episode was solid. I have my complaints, like how her dialogue makes it seem like Lapis has been knocked down a few IQ points, but they're minor. Now it's time for us to look at the little crumbs of lore, joke, and inconsistencies sprinkled throughout the episode. You guessed it, it's time for The Bits. Peridot and Lapis have been doing a lot to the barn, including setting up a tent with the Canadian flag from Camp Pining Hearts. You thought it was a door knocker, but it was me, Meep Morp. Yeah, I'm not sure why I thought that'd be funny. Meh, I'm keeping it in. Just how long has it been since we've seen the barn that they've grown all of this? Or is Peridot just that good? The yellow and black color scheme means that is a Club Cadet tractor. Oh god, those eyes. Those terrifying dead eyes. Wow, thank goodness Steven had his internal monologue out loud, otherwise we'd never know his motivation for licking a pumpkin seed and planting it in this specific circumstance. Writers, give your audience more credit. We can put 2 and 2 together, you know. But why a dog? What is wrong with Lapis in this episode? I mean, is it just me, or is this Lapis a far cry from this Lapis? Hey now, Andy, hobos are a noble people. They would not endorse that kind of sexism. I mean, the hobo queen is held to the same standards of evaluation as the hobo king, and why do I know this?
You're hippies!
Hippies? Hippies? She is blue! I mean, have you even seen a hippie? Oh, alright, never mind.
Greg, you little turd.
This is how you know they are family. Andy has the realest dialogue in this episode. Greg takes advantage of euphemisms to not have to explain that Rose became Steven and just lets Andy assume that he meant she died. This is the wow, are you really that stupid look. Also, the last name DeMayo comes from animation director Nick DeMayo. Is there no Halloween in the Steven Universe universe? It is at this point that I would like to point out and pose a question. If Greg and Steven are the only ones in the family with Universe as their last name, and that the owners of the barn have the last name DeMayo, then why does the registry number on the old discarded helicopter tail in Space Race say Universe?
They're illegal aliens? What? You couldn't even marry an American? What does that matter?
And it is at this point that I will point out that these episodes are made 8 months to a year in advance of their airing date, and thus are not meant to reflect the present political climate. That is not physics. Why is he not freaking out? How much leeway does this idea of hippie mind tricks give a man? Pumpkin Dog's impact sound is an inflated ball. It should be much more thunky. Speaking as an audio engineer. At 2000 degrees, that engine would be a puddle, since aluminum, the standard material of which aircraft engines are made, melts at roughly 1200 degrees Fahrenheit, or 660 degrees Celsius. Shields made of light have incredible heat transfer capability, but are they non-stick?
Why don't we all marry each other?
And the shippers rejoice. That wedding cake has more ethnic and LGBT representation than most primetime sitcoms. I only want to see you burping with a purple flame. That speech was really heartfelt. It shows some real character development on Peridot's part. Lapis is much faster than that plane. All Steven had to do was shimmy a bit to the left, but no. The realist. So that's it for this episode. Catch us next time when we talk about 3 gems and a baby. And if you live in the greater Los Angeles area, I highly recommend that you check out LostCon this coming weekend. It's put on each year by the Los Angeles Science Fantasy Society, the oldest continuously operating science fiction club in the world. This is my 3rd year performing there, and I'm going to be doing 5 panels, including The Book Doesn't Matter, Video Games and Twitter, Storytelling in the Modern Age, Where's My Flying Car, and How to Panel at Conventions, my soup to nuts workshop on how to be a convention panelist. It's really fun. In the meantime, if you live in the US, have a happy Thanksgiving, and may you all have many things to be thankful for. I know I do. I'm Victor Frost, and I will see you next time on Steven Universe.
No one was even using that junk.
Now it's actually good for something.
Just because I haven't been using it doesn't mean, like, here, turn it into a dog laboratory.